Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so I'm just starting the. This is not the right slideshow. And there you go. Okay. All right.
Padma, nice to see nice background.
Yeah, I actually added something. My son gave me something to add.
Looks like.
Thank you.
So how's everyone doing? Let's see, everyone. I'm just trying to make sure I know everyone. Who's Galaxy Tab A?
That's auntie.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
My phone doesn't work, so I got the tablet.
Tablet. That's right. Yeah. I get a headache. I take tablet also.
What you do?
Who is 732?
Rasapran.
No,
Rasapran.
Rasapran
Prabhu.
Rasapran Prabhu is iPhone.
Hare Krishna.
Horrible, Mataji. My 8666.
This is
Oh,
iPhone.
you are an iPhone. Prabhu.
Yeah.
So Minash Prabhu logged in from home.
Minash Prabhu, you logged in from two places?
Hare Krishna Guruji, I think
laptop only.
Hare Krishna Guruji, I think 732 might be me. Vijay Shri.
You? Okay. Vijay Shri Mataji.
Ah,
732. I think, I'm not sure, yeah.
yeah, you're right. I think you're right. Okay, I just want to make sure so then when the questions come, I know which direction they're coming from.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much for joining this evening. So we are planning to conclude chapter 5, which is very nice because that means we only have 13 more chapters to go after.
But once you put it, leave for 1 or 2 minutes and then take
Share my screen. All right, here we go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah. Chapter 5, Acting in Wisdom. So I'm just going to kind of quickly recap. And if you recall, Arjuna seems to keep asking the same question over and over again. And this is establishing a pattern. You know, you tell him, renounce karma, then you say, engage in intelligence and wisely do wise karma, which is better. And then Krishna says, no, both lead to the same goal, but wise action is better because it's easier. And the goal of philosophy is much easily attained by action. Okay, practical renunciation means not desiring. So these are the symptoms of practical renunciation. We talked about those. But best is to do the action, but infuse philosophy, wisdom, knowledge, intelligence. Synthesis is the point. And then Arjuna asks detailed questions about what is wise action versus ordinary deeds. And then Krishna explains that, look, a person who is wise, he cannot be touched, just like he cannot be wetted by the materialistic nature of the world, just like a raindrop on a lotus leaf. And if we renounce our selfishness, our selfish objectives, then only we can have peace. But if you're addicted to controlling other people, you're addicted to controlling matter, to control the world for your sense gratification, selfish whims, you'll be stuck, you'll be bound, and you'll not be like that water, but you'll be like a water in the clay, completely dissolved and gone, mixed up. Okay? In the city of 9 gates is somebody who resides happily in the city, recognizing that she's not the city. You know? Mummy, last time recap karo jo etla. Okay, this happens as a result of inherent nature. So then Arjuna asks, are fools doomed? And then Krishna says, no, not if they stop being foolish. Now the key point that comes up, we talked about this Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, but the key point, and you'll see this is a pattern in all the chapters. This is what I want everybody to recognize. That Arjuna will keep asking the same kind of questions, but that question will lead to a different tangent than what was covered in the previous chapter. That's why the chapter name will be reflective of that tangent that was covered from that same similar question. Okay, so you see that's what's happening over here. It went on a different tangent, the action themselves, and how to act in wisdom. Okay, and what are the symptoms of someone who has reached that level of wisdom? And then Krishna says that he sees everybody with equal vision, and we saw this verse that we'd all memorized: Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavi Hastini. Right? So dog eater, teacher, cow. Okay, I think we do this verse the last time, do you recall? I don't think so. I think we kind of ended over here. Okay. So Arjuna asks, what is the character? Hold on. So these people who are this Vidya Vinaya Sampanna, these kind of people who are self-realized, very advanced. What is the, so Arjuna will ask, but Krishna says that they overcome the material world, right in the here and now. So you can see that you don't have to leave the material world to actually overcome the material world. Because their mind is grounded in equality, they become as flawless and natural as spirit itself. They're already in the spiritual world. So it is possible to exist in the spiritual realm, even though externally we are supposedly in the material realm. This is called Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta. Okay. There is a verse in the Nectar of Devotion. Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikhila sapyavasthasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. That one who is always absorbed in Hari, Iha yasya hare dasye, becomes servant of Krishna, Hare dasya. Manasa, karmana gira, karmana manasa gira. Karmana means with the actions, manasa with their mind, gira means with the words. They're absorbed, all those things, the actions, the mind and the words are absorbed in Hari. Then they are just living in the material world, but they're actually Jivan Mukta, they are liberated. So Arjuna asks, so what is their character like, this kind of Jivan Muktas, this kind of people? So beloved things do not thrill them. Beloved things means like material things that generally considered beloved by everybody, you know, nice comforts, external pleasures. And hated things do not upset them. You know, most people will hate certain things because they like certain other things, and it's a matter of tastes, but it's all matter. So they become indifferent to material situations. The intellect is immovable and foolproof, for it understands and exists within spirit. So this is what happens when our intelligence has been fully realigned to our soul. Right now, what happens is that our intelligence is aligned from the opposite direction of where the soul needs to be. And so we make plans that go against our own better interest, But when the intellect is aligned in the spiritual direction and exists within spirit, then it becomes immovable and foolproof. They have no hunger for the touch of external things because they delight in the pleasures within themselves. Their souls enjoy the infinite delight of union with the spirit. You know, this concept we also repeated earlier in two places, in chapter 2 and again chapter 4, that you find the satisfaction within. You find the well, you quench your thirst from the well of spirituality within your own heart, within your own soul. You don't seek it externally in matter. That is the point over here. And as you'll notice, when we come towards the end of this chapter, roundabout, we come to the same point. Is it possible to do it without you, Krishna? No, Krishna says, no. All this thing I'm telling you is not possible to achieve without me in the center. That's where it all goes down to. So keep that in mind. That's a pattern in all these chapters. The conclusion is always Krishna, the person, Bhagavan. So Arjuna asks, they really have no interest in normal external sense pleasures? They are intelligent, Arjuna. Why should they have any interest in quote unquote enjoyment that begins and ends? And therefore, it is ultimately only the mother of misery. Right? This is verse number 22. This is a very famous verse. I'm just trying to remember. It is the Adya Antavata Kaunteya This is Nateshu Ramate Buddha. This is chapter 5, verse number 22, around that time. I think this is important. I'm going to read the other verse. Yeah. Yeah. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Samsparshaja bhoga, the enjoyment that comes from sparsha. Sparsha means touch. You see, it says over here. Why should they have an interest in enjoyment that begins and end? Adya and anta. It has a beginning and an end. And therefore, dukkha yonaya evata. It is a mother of misery. We think this is what's going to give me pleasure.
Wow.
And we think the absence of it is going to be misery. But actually, that itself is the mother of your own misery. It's the cause of dukkha yona. Yoni means the mother or the womb where the child is born from. The womb in which the child of misery is born is sense gratification. But we think sense gratification will cause us enjoyment and happiness. That is the ultimate irony of our materially conditioned existence.
What is this? 5.22.
592. Yehi samsparshya bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. But one who is smart, Buddha, one who is buddhi is called Buddha. Na teshu ramate Buddha. Ramate means they don't delight in it. They don't entertain themselves in this nonsense. They know it's useless. They know it is like the sugarcane juice, sugarcane that you have chewed, somebody already chewed it, is completely dry. And then you say, oh, that's so much sweetness, and then you try to chew it. They know there is no taste in it. They know it. The smart people know where the real taste is. So then Arjuna asks, what happens to them when they die? These are very elevated souls. And then Krishna tells him, this is the Jivan Mukta aspect again. They do not wait for an afterlife. You don't need to die. They immediately become very happy people because they can forego the impulses that would lead to the pain of greed and anger. A lot of words in this sentence. Let's go over that again. First of all, to be free and happy and liberated, you don't need to die. They don't wait for an afterlife. You can enjoy the full intensity and the full spectrum of happiness that liberated souls enjoy, even while within the body. Why? Because that person has learned to forego or ignore the impulses that lead to pain. Ignore the impulses. They know that going down the road of that particular impulse is going to lead to pain. And what are the two kinds of serious pains? You may think it's physical pain or pain of loss. No. Pain of greed and anger. Greed is not good. Having greed is a source of pain. Having anger is a source of pain. But if you learn to ignore the impulse that take you to that greed and anger, the city of greed and anger, you avoid it altogether. And again, Krishna reiterates, their happiness is within. Their pleasures are within. They are illuminated from within. They attain the flawless experience of spiritual nirvana and become spiritual. They themselves become spirit. Of course, we are all eternally spirit. But to become spiritual means to have your consciousness fully aligned. So then the material cannot affect our experience. They cannot affect our emotions, cannot move us, move our heart, or have any impact on us. So this is the qualification of someone who has advanced sufficiently in spiritual life. Or this is a symptom. And what do they do then? If they're just enjoying within, what do they do? Do they become selfish people and just stay under a tree and don't talk to anybody? Because they're enjoying so much within, what is the point of interacting with the world? Krishna says, no. In that spiritual condition, they work. They work for the welfare of every living being. They are without any greed or anger and are in complete control of their own will. When they die, they'll certainly continue in spiritual nirvana or in the liberated state, living the spiritual world with Lord. But here you can see that even while they're in this world, they act. They don't rest at all. And the example we see is of the devotees, Srila Prabhupada. He hardly slept. He worked day and night. He didn't have to. He was a fully liberated soul. But welfare, he was moved by compassion to see the pain of others. And so he works for their welfare. And then he taught others also to be like him. You work for other people's welfare. You have discovered Krishna consciousness. I've taught you this thing. How do you repay me? You can't repay me. You can pay it forward by teaching others. That's the only way we can repay Srila Prabhupada. All of us in ISKCON can repay Srila Prabhupada by sharing with others. So how to do it? Do it without any greed or personal motives, certainly without any anger. And they are in complete control of their own will. Then, as a consequence of
Prabhuji, I can't hear you.
Can Haribol, can anyone else not hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Padma Mataji, can you still not hear me? I guess if I'm saying this.
No, my volume is max. Suddenly the volume went down. I'll leave and rejoin.
Maybe try rejoining. Try rejoining. Let's see if that helps. Okay. See, oops. Go back. Yeah. Why is it jumping on its own? Weird. Okay. So let me just repeat this point. So basically, those who are spiritually advanced, they don't just sit in a corner, or they don't just sit in an isolated place. Most do not. It is recommended, Krishna recommends that you share your good fortune, and you'll see that these people will do the welfare for this. Okay, clear point. And when they die, they'll certainly continue in the spiritual life. There's no question about that. Okay, so then Arjuna asks, when dying, what is the final practice by which they obtain such an exalted goal? Okay, so this is important. When preparing to die, those who are already liberated shut out and keep distant from all unnecessary perceptions. This is the point of death. They recognize that they're dying or they're about to leave. And so then they say, okay, now let me focus, bring my focus back to Krishna. They focus their sight between their eyebrows and exhale and inhale through the nose in a measured manner. This is just a technical thing. Their wise senses, emotions, and thoughts are fixed upon enlightenment, giving up all of the intentions, fears, and frustrations. So this is at the point of death. This is how they realign themselves and prepare for the point of death. Okay. What he says here is wise senses, means their senses have also been spiritualized through spiritual wisdom. Their emotions is what all the wide range of feelings that we have. The emotions also, they're invested completely in Krishna, completely. All the ecstasies, all the memories, all the things that move the heart, they are centered on Krishna. And their thoughts are fixed on enlightenment, giving up all other intentions. So they have no other now distractions, certainly no fears. They're not frustrated about anything. Now remember, this is quite opposite of someone who's material and they're dying. Someone who's very materially invested, they start scrambling. Their thoughts go all over the place. What about this? What about that? What about my will? What about my cousins? What about my grandchildren, great-grandchildren? They're having those guys are not having a good time over there. I should make sure they get this much property of mine. They're afraid something will go wrong. They're afraid they forgot something, what they're supposed to give in terms of money, property. They're afraid that they will lose the chance now to enjoy with their family. And they're frustrated in many ways. They had so many desires, but they couldn't fulfill them. Our desires are endless. I really wanted my great-granddaughter to get married. I wanted to see her get married, but she didn't want to get married. Come on, she's a great-granddaughter. Still, I want to see her. So these kind of frustration, desires, this is the symptom of an ordinary materialistic soul. But a person who is advanced spiritually, they have given up all these intentions, fears, and frustrations at the time of death, well before time of death. This is part of spiritual maturity, detachment. So then Arjuna asks, you talk about this enlightenment. What enlightenment are they fixed upon attaining? You just mentioned this enlightenment. What is this enlightenment? This stage of enlightenment. And long story short, it always comes down to me. Krishna says, it always comes down to me. What is this enlightenment? It's me. There's nothing else, nothing greater than me. It is Krishna. So this verse is known as the peace formula, and this is the verse that we have memorized for today's homework. If you have not memorized it, we can just review it together. I haven't put the Sanskrit this time, unfortunately, but we can just review it, your book. So this is called the formula for peace, or the peace formula. It's the last verse in the 5th chapter. They seek the peace that comes from knowing me to be the true enjoyer of all their endeavors and efforts, the supreme God of all beings. So you can see in this picture, right? Krishna. Bhoktaram Yagatakasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So all the planets, all creation, I am the God of that. I am the creator, I am the owner, I am the supreme God of every living entity. I am the supreme master, all powerful. And I am the enjoyer, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, of everybody's yagyas, everybody's tapasya. I am enjoying that. That is me. Only I am qualified to enjoy this. So look at my greatness, look at my power. But the key point is this. And they know that I am everyone's only true friend and well-wisher. Suhridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. Suhrid means that a well-wishing person, well-wishing friend who only wants the best for you. Genuinely, he will do anything to make sure that you do well. That is Krishna. He is the only one who can be our true friend and well-wisher, because he's with us all the time, through thick and thin, lifetime after lifetime. Nobody else can do that. Nobody else can be with us lifetime after lifetime. Only Krishna is the one. He is in a unique position. So now, why is that supposed to give me peace? Because see, if you know somebody who is very, very powerful, very, very strong, very influential, say someone who is a multi-billionaire and he has contacts in all the governments, and his first name basis is the presidents of every country, and he's just so powerful, so strong. But if he doesn't like you, then you'll not be at peace. He can do anything to you. He can crush you. But if he is your well-wishing friend who calls you 3 times a week to see how you're doing, every now and then invites you to his house, you share some stories and just catch up on each other, and he gives you a hug and things like that, because he's a well-wishing friend, then you'll feel so much at peace. Because if you need anything done, he will get it done. If the cops are bothering you, he'll make sure they don't bother you. If you need some tender to be passed, he'll make sure it'll be passed. If you need children to go to admission in some college, you'll get it. You'll feel at peace. I mean, this is just a mundane example. My point is that knowing that Krishna is the Lord of everything and supremely powerful, down to the atomic level and up all the way to the cosmic level, fully in control, and you find out he's sitting with you in your heart, and you find out that he is your well-wishing friend, then certainly you'll be at peace. Not theoretically. You recognize it, you feel it, you have understood it completely, and you've seen it, and you have felt it. Certainly, at that point of realization, you will have nothing but peace, because Krishna is always there, and he's the one who's always in control. That is the peace formula, and that can only come when our consciousness is reposed in Krishna, and that can only happen when we absorb in the practices of Krishna consciousness. Hence, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Let our consciousness be absorbed in Krishna, as taught by Bhagavad Gita, and not theoretical, but something you apply and you actually feel, you see it, and you experience it. So this is the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. All right. So thank you very much. Now we will go back and request everybody to recite that verse. So please pull out the Bhagavad Gita if you have a copy. If not, then I should just put that verse over here.
Memorize.
So people can
Those
read
are
it. Those who memorize it, please
that's
let's start with them
They can
first.
do first.
Okay. So who has memorized and who would like to, or if you have a copy to read, that's also fine. So who would like to go first? Go ahead. Kinjal Mataji, you're nodding your head first. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Bhoktaram yagyatapsham suradayam sarvabhutanam yatva mam santim rachyati.
एक लाइन થઈ ગયા તમે.
Bhoktaram yagyatapsham sarvaloka maheshwaram suradayam sarvabhutanam yatva mam santim rachyati.
See, I know now how you maintain like such a youthful and because you don't don't eat everything.
I didn't hear you.
No food.
Sometimes you skip what's on the plate, you know. I'm just teasing, I'm just pulling your leg. No, it's good. This is a good verse to memorize, to quote to somebody. You know, if you quote this verse to somebody, this verse itself has a mantra power, you know, that they will benefit even if they don't know the meaning. But then if you explain to them the meaning, it has multiple benefits. They will respect you because you took the time to memorize the verse.
Not that we really are looking for
No,
respect.
but they will recognize that what you're saying is authoritative. You're not making it up. Huh? And when you're trying to convince somebody and they have more respect for you, that conviction will be stronger. It's not that we are demanding respect that I'll be so great. No. The point is it adds a lot of power to the point that we're trying to get through into their heart. That's why let us work on memorizing. This is a very good point. Thank you, Mataji. You recited it very perfectly. Thank you. Okay, next, Mataji.
Next.
Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna. Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvalokamaheeshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim rachyati.
Very good. Haribo, Jai.
Lord. Half by heart.
All right. Even if it's half-hearted, it's okay.
Good. Keep going.
You have to decide it. Go ahead, Minash. Camera is on you.
Okay. Bhuktana yajna tapasram sarva loka maheshwaram shrudam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachayate.
Haribo. Thank you. Prabhu.
Bhaktarang jagatapasham sarvalokamayesharam suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatamam santimichati.
Haribo. Thank you very much. Who's going to recite next? Please just unmute yourself. Let's recite it.
Go ahead. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Yeah, just pick it up.
I'll try.
Mataji, go ahead.
Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvalokamaheeshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim rachyati.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right.
Nice.
Next.
Who is next?
Okay, I will give a try, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Haribo. Good job. Right?
Bhoktaram yajnatapyasa sarvaloka maheshwaram suhadram sarvabhutana gyatva ma shantim rakshati.
Haribo.
Haribo. Arjun, Aryan, do they want to read?
I can't read that.
Arjun can try quickly.
Go ahead. Are you reading? Are you reading Sanskrit?
Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvalokamaheeshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jatva mam shanti bruchati.
Oh my God. Haribo.
He was reading from the Hindi book.
Yeah, he read. Devanagari. Show the text. Turn it around. Show the actual page. Show the page.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's not easy.
That's very impressive.
Oh my God.
Very impressive.
Amazing. Good job.
Yeah, good job. Fun.
Thank you.
That's great. Good job. Amazing. Okay.
Anyone else? Padma Mataji?
Sorry, I haven't memorized. I'll just
That's
read
all right.
it.
No problem.
Bhuktaram yashnatapasam sarvalokamaheeshwaram surtam sarvabhutanam janatavam santim rakshati.
Haribo. Good job. One tip I'd like to give is whenever somebody is leading, doing the verse, even if you are mute, go ahead with them and say that verse again. So it's easily
Yes,
memorized.
memorized. Yeah.
Go ahead. Next, please.
Okay, who's
please
next?
do.
All right. Okay, who hasn't done it so far?
I'll try.
Yes,
Haribo.
Anilbhai. Haribo.
Good
All right.
job, Anilji.
Bhuktaram yajna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram sudharam sarva bhuktanam natva mam santim rachati.
Haribo.
Right.
Last
Okay.
time से बहुत better है. So nice. You read Sanskrit
Oh, the English letters.
or English?
Sorry? No, English.
English letters, yeah. Okay, anyone else want to try before we go into discussion? Okay, I think that's fine. So who would like to share something that they found intriguing, something they found poignant, something they found very applicable in this chapter that we did? We covered quite a few different points.
Do you want to read? So let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Are there any questions?
Ready for the session.
Okay, you ready?
Hey, Sanjay, what's Sanjay saying?
Yes, Sanjay wants to read too. Prabhu.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Bhuktaram yaja tapasam sarva lokamaheswaram sutam sarva dhanam tatavna satyam rajati.
All right, good job.
Good job, Sanjay.
Okay, Sanjay.
Good job, did it. Now Sanjay is going in the first grade.
Is it?
Yeah, coming September he'll be first grade.
Oh, wow.
In September.
Ah, first class kid in the first class. Nice. Okay, so then the next time we will start with chapter number 6. Chapter number 6 is a very important chapter because we will be wrapping up the first 1/3 of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 6 is about yoga, the process of yoga, Jnana Yoga.
Yeah.
All right.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, the liberated souls, do they know when they're going to die? Like, you know, like I've heard a lot of people say they know exactly when, and you know, they have a vision, or you know.
Lot of very spiritual advanced people do get some knowledge of when they're going to be leaving their body. They get an inkling of it, and some of them who are very advanced in yogic practice, they know exactly when they're going to die, even years before it happens. But it varies. It varies among different people. But there are many pure devotees who are given, who themselves would know when it's coming. They'll get an inkling. And then there are many devotees who don't care. They're very pure. They couldn't care less. So for them, dying or living doesn't make any difference. They're going to die in 5 minutes, live another 55 years, doesn't make any difference to them. So for those who are that spiritual advanced, the actual point of death is in many ways is largely irrelevant because they're already jivan mukta. You know, it's like saying, do I know when I'm going to be taking off my shirt? How is that relevant in the bigger scheme of my life? You know, I'm going to wear another shirt tomorrow. It's very insignificant for those that level. But because we are so tied up with these shirts, that for us leaving this shirt is like such a big deal, you know. So it's a matter of perspective, and sometimes we get impressed. Oh, he knew, but these kind of things are not very impressive for one who understands how the whole system works, and they're not particularly significant. What is significant is where they end up going when they die, not the fact that they knew they were dying. Now there are some yogis who know exactly when they're going to die, but they don't go back to Godhead. You know, they get some very high yogic birth because they enjoy the process of mystic siddhis that you get out of yoga practice. You know, they get attached to that. And there's a lot of yogic siddhi practices that do not involve God at the center. And they do give the particular fruits. They do give the results in terms of certain powers that you get when you accomplish certain yogic siddhis, mystic yoga process. But because Krishna is not at the center, it's not that impressive that they knew they're going to die. God is not in the center. They didn't go back to God. Neither did they share Krishna consciousness with other people. Neither did they make devotees. Neither themselves served Krishna. So their existence is mystically impressive, but spiritually unimpressive. So we should learn to identify which of these things get impressed by, and which things to recognize their particular context that even though they seem magical and mystical, are ultimately material. A lot of people get carried away by astrologers. Some astrologers are very good. I mean, they're incredible. They'll tell you exactly what's going to happen, and they'll tell you next year on January this will happen, February this will happen, and July, by the July you'll have a house. And I mean, they're very, very precise, and sometimes have exactly like that. They're very good because they have a science of Jyotish. Jyotish science is given by Krishna in the scriptures, and if you study it very well under proper guidance, you can actually predict a lot of cool things. Now, some people mistake that to be spirituality. Some people mistake that to be God or something to do with God. It's nothing to do with God. It is completely material. It's like predicting the weather. Okay, we check the weather, weather.com. Tomorrow it's going to be 84 degrees. Okay. Maybe 100 years ago, if you did that to somebody, they'll be so impressed. Oh, this guy is mystical, maybe the God or something.
Because they know future.
Yeah, because he could tell the future. But it's just another science, a material science that is very subtle and very technical and very mystical looking. But devotees don't get impressed by things that look magical and mystical. They get impressed by how much someone can cause another person to be genuinely spiritually uplifted, come closer to God, come closer to an understanding of God, become understand our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. This is the real magic. These are the real impressive things.
I was watching Prabhupada when he was, leaving, and till the last minute he was preaching. That was amazing, That was really, really touching.
There's a morning walk, Srila Prabhupada on the morning walk on the beach, and then one of the disciples saying, there's this big so-called God, and he can create gold out of thin air and just gives people. And a lot of people worship him to be God. He's just some kind of mystical something, right? And people think him to be God. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's fine if they think him to be God, but what is so impressive about that? Why don't they see the real impressive thing? That we have created 5,000 people, we caused them to give up meat, fish, eggs, intoxicants, bad habits, and taken to chanting the names of God. That is a real miracle. If this particular so-called God can do that, that is the work of God. Not pulling ash and gold out of thin air and fooling people. That is not. There's so many people in India. Even today, you'll find at least 500 people in different parts of India pretending to be God because they can do some cheap tricks. And they create a following. Then they say this is power. What is power? It's just some mystical thing they've learned how to do. Magic. What is magic? Magic is just science that is sufficiently advanced beyond the audience's vision. That's all. If you know science more than the audience and you can do something the audience doesn't know that particular science, then it's considered magic. That's all. But it's still material science. So my point is that Krishna and Krishna consciousness is what's impressive, and how we can help the world with genuine welfare. Thank you, Mata. Good point.
Prabhuji, I have a few questions. The first one is in the text where we're talking about the characteristics of a person who has realized Krishna and all living beings. He's talking about something about spirit. What exactly is the spirit in that context? And number two is in the afterlife, like for a liberated person, like, maybe after millions of birth or whatever, for a person who is going to Krishna's world, right, to become one with the God, are there stages at that point in time? Like if there is no more birth for me and I've died, like are there in that afterlife, are there stages and steps to reaching God? Or is that something that's going to be covered later?
So we will cover that, but I can answer that now. So there are two questions. One is in the context of seeing everything in spirit. When you see the equality of spirit. And the second question was, are there stages even to the point of leaving the body and being liberated? Are there further stages after that point? Okay? So the first point is the word spirit, like you said, is correct. It changes its meaning depending on the context. So in this particular context, spirit refers to the spiritual plane or the spiritual existence. So what does that even mean? Spiritual existence or spiritual elements are what? The soul, spiritual. Super soul is spiritual. Both of them are spiritual. The material body is not spiritual. So then when he says he exists in spirit, means he realizes he's not the body, he realizes he's the eternal soul. Second, he's in contact with the super soul, which is Krishna in the heart. And third, his consciousness is absorbed in Bhagwan, who is the ultimate source of super soul and soul. Because Bhagwan and super soul are basically one and the same person. Super soul is just an expansion of Bhagwan. So one who is conscious and fully acts according to the direction of super soul and according to the direction of the soul of the Bhagwan, which is Krishna, then that platform or that plane of existence and plane of action in the whole environment is called spirit. That's what the context of that word. Now, about your second question, you had mentioned that is there any stages further after we have left this body if we are very spiritually advanced and we are liberated? So, our liberation will depend on where we want to go. So there are different couple of kinds of liberation. One kind is called impersonal liberation. Impersonal liberation means, you see, Krishna gives off a light, very powerful light, very bright light that permeates throughout the entire spiritual world, spiritual sky, and goes all the way into spirit material world also. Okay, so that is called the Brahma or Brahma Jyoti. Brahma Jyoti is the light that emanates from Krishna's body. And for those souls or individuals who want to be liberated from material world but don't want to interact with Krishna's personal form, they just want to exist. They don't want to enjoy bliss or anything, they just want to exist. That person, a kind of liberation is given where you can absorb yourself into the light. You become just one particle in the light. You don't lose your individuality, you're still there. You can still see everything, but you're just hanging out in the light, doing nothing, interacting with nothing, you're just existing. Devotees do not prefer that sort of liberation. Devotees prefer to interact with Krishna as servant, where they can serve Krishna as a person in different ways. Krishna the person, and I want to serve him. Today I will offer him this, tomorrow I'll offer him that. And interactive, because they are not satisfied with just being in the light. They want to go to the person who is the source of the light. They want to be intimately connected to Krishna. So that's why in our devotional platform of Krishna consciousness, the emphasis is given on the personal aspect. So those are two kinds of liberation. Now the impersonal liberation is not permanent because the soul's nature is to be active, and the impersonal liberation is not activity. So what happens after some time, the soul gets really bored, and they get bored, and then they come back to the material world because there's some activity going on in the material.
Personal liberation means that light, the Jyoti, Brahma Jyoti.
The light.
They say light. That is impersonal liberation. And in that light, when the soul goes, it sits there, dormant, in a very dormant state.
Inactive way, yeah.
So this is the desire of a soul?
Krishna fulfills that desire.
Oh.
Soul gets bored, they come back. So from the Brahma Jyoti, you can come back here repeatedly. Because that is the most satisfying. Now, there are entire schools of thought that are based on the Vedas that emphasize the impersonal aspect. So much so, they say that there is nothing higher than the impersonal light. There are many groups of philosophers who try to push that agenda. And that is why if you read Prabhupada's books, you'll find Prabhupada is constantly and dismantling this misconception of impersonalism, or sometimes called Mayavadi. Mayavadis claim that the Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna who came on this earth, we see him, He's a product of Maya. Actually, Krishna was produced from the light. But in the scriptures and in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna says the light comes from me. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Says, I am the basis of that Brahman light. I am the source of that light. And Arjuna also recognized Krishna. He says, Para Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. He said, you are Para Brahma. Means you are higher than the Brahma. So Krishna is both the source of the Brahma and he is higher than the Brahman. And this concept is repeatedly found in the Bhagavatam, Puranas, Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, repeatedly and emphatically. Yet, many philosophers say, just disregard that part. Actually, listen to me. I am telling you, Krishna is a product of Maya, and ultimately, even Krishna has to go and absorb back into the light from where he came. That idea has no basis anywhere in scripture. But because it is very appealing to people that I will be also God, or I will also stop existing. People are frustrated with the variety of life. They think the best liberation means to stop having any variety. It's one form of logic. It's not illogical. It's granted, it's fairly logical that I see that when I'm interacting with people, they stab in my back or they disappoint me. So many bad things happen. So it cannot be possible that liberation will have people. So that conclusion is based on frustration in this world. They don't realize that actually the highest form of liberation is a personal kind of liberation. So this philosophy needs to be dismantled and recognized where it happens. So that form of liberation, we do not want. Yeah.
So from there, no going back. Like once you have gone into the personal form of realization or being one with the God, there is no coming out of it.
There's nothing higher than that, and there is no coming back from there. So Krishna gave that in 2 places in Bhagavad Gita, that you don't come back.
No.
This is my Dhamma, you will not come back. He promised in the Gita
That
itself.
avagama, that verse.
Yeah. So, Yam prapya na nivartante is one place, and yet gatva na nivartante means you don't return. So,
It's very important to develop that right desire, isn't it?
Yes. So it's better to make the right decision first and focus on yourself. And the Krishna conscious process trains you how to think like that, how to act like that, and what kind of worship to do, what kind of philosophy to cultivate in your intentions, and what not to do.
So, Prabhuji, leading question. So, is it possible for a person who is like, let's say, a totally materialistic person today, is it possible to develop this consciousness in this lifetime, say like, I don't know, however longer we are going to live. So in this lifetime, is it possible to, achieve that kind of a fiat?
Yes, completely possible. The process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful, you can do it within one day also. If you're sufficiently
intensity has to be there.
If you're sufficiently motivated, you can even do it in one day. Generally, it takes many days, many years. But the process is so powerful. If you take it strongly enough, requisite intensity, you can do it in one lifetime. Prabhupada gives that many places, guarantee. But you have to really put your effort. But it's not impossible. Because it's most natural. This is where we are. That's our home. So saying, is it possible to go back home? Yeah, that's our home. All right?
Thank you.
Guruji, can I just ask you a question? Do we have time for that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so so I'm just like trying to understand this. Krishna says that we need to have the wisdom. We need to recognize we are the soul and not the body, and we have to live selflessly and center everything around this knowledge. And then he also says that unless and until I'm not at the center of this, you really can't like achieve this, right? I have to be at the center of this. So this may really sound like a silly question, but there are so many exalted sages like Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. They did not have Krishna at the center of their bhakti or devotion, right? Durga Mata or Lord Shiva. So, but they all had this early realization about, not being the body and being the soul, and, understanding that there is a higher consciousness and all of that. So, does that mean that they have not achieved godhead just because they pray to Durga or to.
It's a very common question. It's a very good question. So suppose you have an airline ticket to go to Chicago, and I have an airline ticket to go to Los Angeles, and suppose that Los Angeles is better, and he's convinced, or you're convinced Chicago is better. It doesn't matter. When you have a ticket to Chicago, you'll go to Chicago only. You see. So the verse in Bhagavad Gita explains this. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitriyanti pitravrata. So one who worships a particular demigod, say Lord Shiva or Durga Devi or Ganesh, whatever, they go to that demigod. To them, that is their liberation.
Oh.
You see, because they have limited their scope, vision. They recognize that they are not the body. They've recognized that at death you can transfer yourself to anywhere you want. Now they've made a choice to go to this particular location. You see. Now, where each of these locations are relative to each other is also very clearly given in the scripture. You see. Devi Mahesh Dham Shute Shute. So we are in what is called Devi Dham. Higher than Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham. Higher than Mahesh Dham is Vaikuntha Dham. Higher than Vaikuntha Dham is Goloka Dham. So these dhamas are all there. So, yeah, so Brahma Samhita describes this. And so it is possible if I worship Lord Ganesh very, very nicely according to the proper scriptural injunction, I recognize I'm not the body. But Lord Ganesh is a demigod who is in charge of the material realm. He has a place in the material world, which is a very powerful place. Lord Shiva has a place in Kailash Dham, which is just above the material world. It is at the junction of the material and spiritual worlds. So you can hang out with Kailash in Kailash Dham for a very, very long time with Lord Shiva. You see. So, and we can go to Indra Loka also. Indra Loka is part of the material world. So you can worship this 330 million demigods at different levels. You can worship any of them and go to their place. But what happens? Kshine Puniya Martya Lokam Vishanti. The Bhagavad Gita explains that when somebody reaches any planet of any demigod, they will live there for a very, very long time. It will seem like an eternity, but it will not be eternity, because when your punya is finished, you have to come down to Martya Lokam Vishanti. Martya Lokam means you have to come down to this planet of death, Mrityu Loka. So, yes, and then Krishna also explains that those whose intelligence has been stolen by selfish desires, they develop a desire to worship demigods who grant them these desires very easily. You see, for example, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's name is Ashutosh. Ashutosh means he's very easily pleased. Easily pleased, and he'll grant you just to get you off his back. Because he's like, okay, yeah, what do you want? What do you want? Wife, okay, take go. But if you ask Lord Shiva, my dear Lord, please give me a son. Say you want a child, okay? And you say, Lord Shiva, please give me a son. He'll give you the worst one. But if you say, give me a son who will be the devotee of the Lord, then he'll give you the best one. Because that's now you're talking my language. See, so worshipping demigods is not a problem, but you have to worship them in the proper context. And you talk their language, please the demigod. Best way to please the demigod is to recognize that I want to be Krishna's devotee. Oh, join the club. I am also his devotee. Let me help you out. Then the demigod will help you out. You see, that's how that works. Many great people have accomplished and reached these stages, but they're not the highest stages.
So all of these sages would be at the realm of the demigod.
Both that they established themselves. Whether it was Kali Mata, Durga Devi.
Like Ramana Maharshi, I mean, just reading his life story, such a young age, he had this out-of-body experience and everything, and it's just this kind of soul connect that he had with, Arunachala and everything, and which is Lord Shiva's abode. So it's not like he just chose it. It's like he was drawn to it. It's almost like a soul calling when you read it. So
choices that we make in past lives.
Oh, okay.
So we drawn to them.
Oh, okay. So it's probably that his soul has always been a Lord Shiva.
That way, but ultimately, when they connect, then they'll find the.
Then shouldn't Lord Shiva just tell such souls that no, you need to redirect yourself to Krishna?
He does tell, depending on when. See, Lord Shiva knows that. He tells them according to how much they can handle. It's very personal, very complex. The Lord is in.
I mean, because they are really, like, such great souls. So for me, I'm finding it very difficult to digest this, that they have actually gone to a realm which is not the highest, and they are definitely going to come back to this earth. To me, I'm finding it a little, difficult to understand.
Good question. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Then we always talk about hell and heaven. So who is the God of heaven?
Who is the God? First of all, which heaven are you talking about? Because there's so many.
Like we just discussed, yeah.
Vijayashri Mataji had a question. Go ahead, Vijayashri Mataji.
No.
I might be extending the time, but then today, actually, in between, you asked that what did you like the most in this chapter, and then I was having a thought yesterday, and today's lecture was kind of on the same thought, that what do the enlightened souls do? How do they live? After becoming enlightened, how do they live, and how do they act? And we can draw a lot of lessons from that. But enlightened souls are enlightened souls, and we are just the beginners. But in my capacity, sometimes there is a wisdom that I have commonly heard, that if you express happiness for certain thing, then you will also get grief when opposite of that thing happens. So in terms of relationships, if my relatives or my children's minor or major successes, if I derive happiness from them, then I'm sowing the seed of my grief also when they fail. So, like, so then I thought that I was having this question. So then does it mean that I don't become happy at their success or at their achievements? Or then I thought that I can't help it, being a mother, I can't help sharing that emotion with them. But then I thought maybe I should cultivate like, I can be happy, but I should cultivate the thought of not being not being negative with their success, and in that moment of not being negative with their failure, and that in the moment of their hard times in their life, I can just look for a solution but not be overcome by grief. So I thought I'll ask you this.
Very, very good question. Very deep question. And actually, the solution comes with gradual. First, you have to be yourself. You can't suppress your emotions in the name of, I'm a devotee. I'm not going to feel happy that she got straight. You should be happy. And naturally, you feel good, they accomplished something. But how do you leverage that situation now? You can leverage that, any situation you can leverage to become more Krishna conscious. Immediately you thank the Lord. My Lord, it's only because of your mercy that she got straight A's. Otherwise, life is so miserable in this world, but somehow by your mercy, maybe she has struggled and all, but you gave her strength to struggle. You gave her the strength and intelligence. Thank you, my Lord. You are the best. This way, now you've converted this moment into Krishna conscious moment. Now, if the inverse happens, something very miserable happens, and you're crying, I mean, you feel sad. Maybe you cry, maybe you don't cry. And then, even then, you can leverage now. My Lord, whatever you wish that is meant to happen, maybe something better can come out of this. We don't know. Maybe it could have been a lot worse, but she only got a B instead of she got F. Something. I'm just giving one example. So it could have been worse, but thank you, my Lord, that at least she got a B. Or thank you, at least we're still alive. I mean, we almost died in that car crash, but somehow the car just missed us and we scraped the car. It cost us $2,000 damage, but I'm not going to be angry. We lost $2,000. You saved our life, Lord. So we look on the bright side. As we become more Krishna conscious, we will learn to leverage any situation to bring Krishna right in the center. The point is the time of death, all these experiences will come. I told you that movie will show at the time of death. These experiences will flash. And if in that experience, Krishna was the center of your thought, then that same Krishna thought will come at the time of death, and then that will propel you to Krishna's loka. Otherwise, material world, what does it matter? Right? Whether our children fail or pass, ultimately it's just one flash in one lifetime. Next time I'll be their children or something. Who knows? It's all, maybe we don't see them again. Who knows how these things work? What matters is Krishna, right? So devotees, as they become more mature, they will be less shaken by either euphoria, like too much excitement, or too much grief. Some people are very chill like that, very natural. And some people get moved by the smallest things. This is maturity comes with the cultivation of Krishna consciousness and detachment. You know, one devotee, he keeps a pendant around his neck. And in the pendant is written one thing. It says, you know, he says, anytime something intense happens in my life, I look at the pendant and it helps me. What's written on the pendant? It's written, this too shall pass. So if something very, very exciting is happening, look at the pendant. Don't get carried away. This will also going to go, okay? Time will take this away. And if you're going through some serious grief, look at this is also going to go. Don't worry. And devotees, we recognize this too shall pass. This is the nature of the world. But this Krishna conscious philosophy and cultivation is what helps us deal with it. And if we have a hard time divesting our emotions, we invest our emotion by believing in Krishna somehow or other into that emotion. Leverage every situation to be more Krishna. And the more intense the situation, the more leverage you get out of it. Right? So we'll have to end over here. It's gotten quite a bit of time, but these are wonderful questions. Thank you so much for bringing them up. If you have any other questions, please hold them for the next time. It's only the day after tomorrow. Start reading the first 12 verses of chapter 6. Chapter 6 is a very interesting chapter, Dhyana Yoga. Okay, Dhyan se padna. All right. And we'll see then. Okay, Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll have a few minutes of Kirtan. All right.
Jai Shri Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So we'll do Kirtan now, just a couple of minutes. Our Madhav is here with the Madhura. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Go Brande, Hari Hari Bo, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Lakshmi Mataji. Thank you, Raspran Prabhu. Chaitanya Prabhu, Padma Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Priya Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
See you.
We'll see you Thursday.
See you.
Hari Bol.